Okay. Somebody let me know.
I first heard Phil, it was like a year ago in Valparaiso at a H&I PI conference, and I am very, I want to hear what he has to say, and with that I give you Phil.
When I saw this the other day, I was like, is that a joke? Because I didn't see the microphone. And then they said it's underneath, so I was like, is this right here?
Yeah, that's it, right.
Anyway, my name's Phil. I'm an addict. When on the little flyer for this convention retreat, whatever it is, it was the info numbers, and I called up Ray, and I was asking him about it because I don't do too many rustic things. So I wanted to find out just how rustic it was here, and he asked me if I would do a workshop, and he ran down a list, so complacency seemed to kind of stick out. So here I am. Whenever I'm asked to speak, I do my best not to think too much about it, although, there's a little preparation, and I always take a quiet time and ask God to speak through me. So hopefully that's what will be achieved here. My clean date is August 18th, 1982, and coming up on 17 years. And the name of this workshop is Complacency and Recovery. So although I have over 16 years, me personally, I think that I really only have about 6 years of actual recovery. After becoming very complacent for what I feel was the third time since I got straight, I ended up in a psych ward at 10 years straight, walking around there holding my 10-year coin in my hand. And realized that I had better get back to the basics in this program. So a fellow out in my area named Pete, we share a similar belief that everything I ever really needed to know, I learned in the first 30 days. The only problem is just making it a lifelong process. But like most newcomers, when I first started coming around to meetings, in my zealousness to, get on with life and totally convinced that I could, really work all these steps in the first year and then lead a great life after that, found out that just ain't what's happening. But I hit it real hard. I spent a year compiling my first 4-step, writing things. If people would talk and I would relate, I would write them down. And that was my first 4-step. There's been 4 more since then. But, and then in almost 2 years, I really completed what I thought was the actual working and writing of the steps. And in that time period, I had my grandfather became sick, and my step-grandmother died, and he was not allowed really to see us, so I would sneak around and see him on the side. And then after I got straight with the aid of God and these steps he wrote, my grandfather would come see me on his own. Sometimes he reached out and said that he needed help, and if we would come live with him when he died, his business, his house, and all his possessions would be ours. And that was pretty early recovery for me. And they talk about hindsight being great. When he died, and some things actually became mine and my wife's, we should have sold them. But anyway, back to the story. So I went from being foreclosed on, having Board Up Unlimited, knocking on the front door to see if anybody was still living in the house, in early recovery, to literally quite anything we wanted to buy, any type of food, any type of clothing, any type of vehicle. It was quite a shock. I had never experienced anything like that in my life. I'm third oldest of 11 children, and quite literally, we were the family from the wrong side of the tracks all our life. And when I met my wife, who just gave me the sign, I thought that she was rich, but what I know now is they were like middle class. But when you're that poor all your life, 2 meals a day and sheets on the bed, wow. You expect to see a maid walking through with that kind of service. But once we were established there and living with my grandfather for a while, and like I say, the material things started, we gathered them rather rapidly, new cars, learning how to run a business that I had no idea of. The only business I ever had prior to that one was what I thought was the business of selling drugs, and I really don't think I ever made any money at that. Not that anybody I've ever seen in a meeting did. And I did pretty good till around my 5-year anniversary, and I was fairly deeply involved in service work. So when I first got straight, some of the older members from different areas might know how it was, with just 1 or 2 meetings around, that's it, and then after a little while they start springing up like wildfire, and you're faced with the problem of how do the 8 people that go to the one meeting, how do you go to all these same meetings? I remember when 6 people was a big meeting. But anyway, I started having money regularly, and new clothes, and it was quite a shock, as I said, and I started backing off on meetings. It was the first thing. I started backing off on meetings. Then I stopped praying as much as I did. But I do remember thanking God for, getting me to this point in life, for supplying all these worldly possessions. And although, like I said a couple minutes ago, I had written out and done the steps, to the best of my ability at that time, I really didn't understand them. I really didn't know how to apply them. I really was not conscious of the spiritual principles that they represent and the way of life that hopefully someday I'll achieve. Area had just started, and the last time I did service work until about a year ago, I was representing 3 different groups. I was everything for 2 groups and GSR for a 3rd. And I didn't know at that time that there was a rule that you can't have more than 1 vote, even though you may be representing multiple groups. And when the chairman informed me of that, literally I got up and I was going to grab him by the shirt and smoke his eye. And that was my last experience of service work, like I say, until last year. At least I understood that my personality was now in the way of the principles of this fellowship. So then I went from, like I said, 3 different positions to nothing, to 0, no service work. I lost another connection with NA. And I tried being, some of us still have families when we get straight, and I tried, once I got straight, it was like, cool, I'm going to be the perfect father, I'm going to be the perfect husband, and life's going to be great, although what I know now is I was never taught any of those things. I was taught how to be a father and a husband, but not a healthy one. I know how to be a sick person. 3 years of family counseling, marriage counseling helped in that area a little bit. I was not aware that I was doing all the things that I heard people that relapse say they stopped doing. I really thought I was doing okay. And what I know now is I was becoming more and more and more complacent in all areas of my life. And that was at around 5 years straight. And I was starting to do more and more. It was a heating and air conditioning business, and I was starting to do more of the things like running to get permits in different cities and things like that. And in the back of my mind, I knew there was things I should have been doing. I knew I should have been talking to my sponsor. I knew I should be writing. I knew I should be going to meetings. But you see, I had become so fucking important now with this business and 9 employees and all these responsibilities that I just had other things that were more important than going to meetings. And because God had brought me this far in life and He'd given me all these things, so I must be supposed to be doing this now. Rationalization, justification, key points of complacency and our downfall. So again, a tremendous amount of guilt was building up inside me. The battle between here and here. And on my 1-year anniversary, I quit smoking cigarettes. And I didn't do it for myself. My grandfather didn't like people that smoked cigarettes, but he tolerated it. And he would always cough or make a comment or something if I was smoking in the house. So on a 1-year anniversary, I quit smoking cigarettes, and I had all this guilt going on. I knew I should be doing certain things. I was really frustrated because I had no idea how to run a business, although I wasn't telling anybody all these things. I was locking up again like I was for most of my life. And I had to go get a permit in Gary. If anybody is familiar with that way, a lot of the streets, Fifth Street goes this east, 4th Street comes back west. So I had to go to the courthouse and get a permit, and I come out, and I was in quite a hurry, and I remember parking in a no parking zone. You know, I'm 5 minutes, I'm going in, I'll be in and out, and I come out, and there was a parking ticket on the car, and that really pissed me off, along with the guilt that was already running in my head. And on 5th and Broadway, I screamed out something. I'll just say that what I screamed out was, "To hell with this." And I said, the first place I see that sells cigarettes, I'm getting it back. And I did, and I'm still smoking cigarettes. That was a while ago. So I got in the car, and I lit up, and I'm on 4th heading back for the shop. And then I told myself, the next liquor store I see, I'm going to stop and get a case of Old Salad and 50 Jack, because that's about a day's worth. And then once I get that buzz going, I'm going to go get what I really want. And literally, I locked up the brakes on the car and slid, and I was shaking, and I was trembling. And I said, man, I'm straight. I'm not supposed to think like that. I'm not supposed to say those things. That's not supposed to happen to me. So I called my sponsor, and he said, "Oh, hadn't heard from you in a while. You know, I wondered if you were dead." And I got back to the fellowship, back to the basics again. The simple little things. Just because you acquire a few 24 hours, and it even talks about it on page 80 if you choose to read it, but I won't. And that did okay till about, I was pretty rigorous again, going to meetings, working steps, doing what I thought was changing me, but again, you know, looking back now, what I was doing was telling everybody else what I thought I needed, you know, for my life and for their lives to be great with me in it. In 1988, my net worth, or mine and my wife's net worth, which is an area I'm working on right now because I had become complacent in my relationship with my wife for the last couple of years. 1988, our net worth was $242,000 between property and cash. And as a direct result of, again, backing off on meetings, again, not doing the things that I was taught how to do and I was learning how to do, by January of 1990, we ended up filing bankruptcy. In recovery. We've talked to a few other people that have had to file bankruptcy since they got straight, and it's like, wow, you know, we're not the only ones. Whew, cool. It was very rough. It contradicted with some of my new learnings. But I didn't get back to the meetings yet. You know, I felt, okay, well, 10 years, you know, I made it this far. I could probably make it the rest of my life. One sponsor I had I had 3 sponsors. One moved to Texas, the second one died, and this guy's doing okay. I work with him. I see him like 3 days a week. We meet, talk, pretty good stuff. But we had lost the business. I had been through 2 more jobs. I wasn't going to meetings. Wasn't, you know, good Lord, let alone it was the last time I talked to the sponsor. And writing, forget that. And a bunch of things started happening to members of my family, and my oldest daughter got raped. And I remember saying, I can't take any more. Now, through all of this, I didn't use, my wife didn't use, through all of that. But I got real nuts, real complacent. And I woke up one morning in so much pain. What I know now is I was in so much pain. And again, the guilt was there because I knew from years back that I had a way of dealing with it. But I also had a guilt and a shame of going back to the tables, you know, and them saying, where you been, Phil, you know. So I still didn't talk to anybody about it. And it got to the point where I woke up one morning about 10 years straight telling myself that somebody was going to die that day, and I did not care who. I had hurt so bad inside. And it was almost my youngest daughter. She was standing next to me and said something, and I have never experienced having to restrain myself from doing something like that ever. That's not a healthy way to think, you know, period. straight, whatever. So I sent myself into a psych ward at 10 years straight, clutching my 10-year coin. That was a little over 6 years ago, and I got back to this fellowship, and I buried myself in these steps and in the program and in God. I understand now what's happened. I've come as close at this point in my life as I ever want to a relapse, because I understand all the dynamics now behind that actual picking up that one after you're straight for a while. And one of the jobs I had after losing the business was I was a addictions counselor. I worked in a detox unit for 2.5 years and an adolescent unit for a year. And here I was, not going to meetings anymore. I was doing a little praying because I started reading some books about God, thinking there's something wrong, not realizing I wasn't going to the places he was telling me to go. And I was getting paid to tell people to go to meetings. I was getting paid to tell people to pray, write, get a sponsor. What a walking contradiction I was. And after I got over that guilt and shame, and about 2 weeks of just sobbing my heart out, you see, I got back to the program. I got back to the basics. That little simple shit I learned in the very beginning. I understand what happens now, the arrogance, the complacency, and everything that comes along behind it. And it affects all 3 areas of my life because the books, and when I first got straight, this wasn't around, so I had to go to other resources, and every one of those books, other 12-step fellowships, I won't say any names, that I've read about, all said I have this threefold disease, physical, emotional, and spiritual, and that I should be working on all 3 areas, or I'm only going to get a partial healing or partially restored to sanity. That's just how I understand it. So my number 1 priority today is my connection with God. I have 4 daily readings I do rigorously 6 days a week. Sunday is kind of a, whenever I get out of bed. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I read them every morning. I kind of look at some of the people that do that sometimes after I used to say that at meetings. This is what I do every day, and I wasn't doing it. My second priority right now is my relationship with my wife. As the title of this workshop does say, Complacency in Recovery. And recovery for me today is not just going to meetings. It's my whole life. It's everybody I come in contact with. It's my wife, my children, my relatives, the few that still want to see me. I'm third oldest of 11 kids, and I'm the only one not abusing something or somebody, and I'm the outcast. I'm the black sheep. They choose not to see me. This is not an arrogant statement. It's a reality statement. They're missing quite a nice guy. I want to talk a little bit about my complacency in the relationship with my wife. About 2 years ago, give or take, I was operating under this basis that I still thought that there was something out there that was going to fill this hole. So I sought outside the confines of my marriage for companionship. I would believe I was on afternoons at that time. My wife was on days. And we've had many discussions about this recently. Either I would come home and be tired, or she would come home and be tired. We were both still going to meetings very regularly, like I say, since I got out of the nut ward. I know what to do now. So there were many things that I thought contributed to why I sought outside my marriage, and I know now it was just justification. It was just shit. And my intention was never to hurt anybody, although I have deeply. So I was real complacent in my relationship with my wife. I started taking things for granted. I stopped doing the little things that I know she liked. And in all areas but that, I was honest. So, not too long ago, the other person involved called up my wife and told her what was going on. So what we've talked about recently is what led up to that. Sort of like a relapse prevention in a relationship. And one of the reasons I wanted to come here so strongly was not necessarily because it was an NA retreat. It was because it was someplace my wife and I could go. So we'll be married 29 years this November, and we've never been any place without the kids, except one other convention. And our youngest daughter was there, but in another room. Thank you. Some of you know my youngest daughter. Thank you. The older two told us that they prepared us for her. We have 3 children. The hellion. But anyway, back to complacency. Specifically in my relationship with my wife. I forgot how, or more so maybe it was a question of from things that I thought I needed to make me a whole person again. I stopped doing things and I stopped feeling things again. And I guess I sought outside the confines of my marriage for companionship. But there was still that spark back there going, this ain't right, Phil. You know, this ain't right. That conscience they talk about that some of us get back. Hopefully most of us. So it was an area I never really expected. It was something I thought I needed, like I said, to make me whole, and it just wasn't getting it. It just wasn't making it. So I got back to God, and I was back in that process of getting back to God, because every time I get complacent and I think there's something missing, a lot of the meetings I used to go to out in my area would say the Lord's Prayer. And it's like been voted out now, a lot of controversy about God and prayer and stuff in the meetings. But when I know I was coming out of complacency, as we'd be standing there holding hands, saying the Lord's Prayer, and I could feel it again. I could feel it. Oh, God. And the passion would be back in my voice, speaking about God and His program. Her program, Yahweh, Buddha, Great Spirit, White Buffalo, I don't care what you call it. It's all God. Sorry, somebody's laughing. So I am relearning, like I had to relearn how to do all kinds of things straight. I am relearning how to have a relationship with my wife after 29 years. She made a comment a few minutes ago. We were outside talking with someone. When I first got straight, we'd been married 12 years, and it was like we were dating all over again, because I was high when I met her. We stayed that way for 12 years. And it was exciting, so it's that way again right now. Finding out who each other is after both of us have found out who we are. It's the hardest thing in the world to do, is help somebody find out who they are if you don't know who you are. I found that out after 10 years, trying to fix everybody else. So I hope I've talked about complacency. Carrie said I get 20 minutes. Am I getting there? Is it Carrie? Okay. I hope I've talked about complacency. Hope I did my job. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, our next speaker is Gary B. from Goshen, Indiana. Good friend of mine, and I'm looking forward to hear what he has to say too on complacency. So here's Gary.
All right, Gary.
Everybody, my name's Gary. I'm an addict.
Hey, Gary.
Complacency and recovery. I don't think I've done that yet. I haven't been clean that long. Be 4 years next month. When Anita asked me to do this workshop, she said that she thought that I would probably be well suited for that. And actually, I've been thinking lately that I haven't been doing as much as I did the first 3 years. You know, but because I would sit in the beginning at the meetings, once I got comfortable with the hugs, which was real early, y'all made me get comfortable with it real fast. And I wouldn't get up and go to the bathroom. I'd sit. I experienced more extreme bladder fullness in my first year of recovery than ever before in my life. And I was so afraid that I would miss hearing something. I didn't talk a lot. I remember the first, for some reason it sticks in my head. I was at my home group, and I remember even in treatment, I didn't come to Narcotics Anonymous just to stop using drugs, because I had done that before a time or two, not by my own will, you know. It's when you're in a little cubicle and they put your food through a slot. You know, and I can remember being just as miserable and as sick and as scared and angry. But so I had the unmitigated gall in treatment. I'm grateful for treatment because they gave me a basic text and told me to start going to NA meetings. But I remember saying, I'm not here to just stop using drugs. I need to learn how to live and how to have some fun. And my first NA meeting that I went to, might have been my second one, because the first one was actually at the hospital, but it's one of the oldest meetings in Elkhart, one of the oldest meetings in North Central Indiana. And it was about, I don't know, 50 people there. And I stuck my hand up, and somebody had, I thought it was immediate still when I discovered that honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness was like how, and I thought, oh, wow. Nobody told me that. I just figured that out. Those two, H-O-W, that's how it works. And I said, my name's Gary, I'm an addict, and I don't know shit. And I'm not here to just stop using drugs. I'm here to learn how to have fun and how to live. And the next guy that shared after me, you know how when you're sitting in a meeting, if somebody shares after you, figure they're taking dead aim at you? And I wasn't that far away from using. And this guy, who I don't think he stays clean, too much. He was an angry guy. He wasn't very big either, so it made it kind of easy for me to feel how I felt when he said, well, I'm just here to stay clean. If somebody don't like that, fuck them. And of course, nobody knew me real well then, so they came up like, oh, he doesn't mean anything, he does this all the time. And so we went to Shoney's, and I made a point of taking some advice somebody gave me, and this angry individual was sitting by himself in a little booth, so I went over and sat down with him. And we talked about a lot of stuff, but we didn't talk about how I initially felt when he said what he said, you know, which I won't go into. We've all felt that before. It involves axes, and, you know. Anyway, I don't think we had a secretary then, because somehow I wound up being secretary real fast, and I thought that meant I opened a meeting up every week and chaired it. So I did that for the first year, and then went on to something else in service. I'm still doing some service. I got a sponsor at 9 months, so I was kind of waiting around for the perfect person, you know.
No, he
I was
wasn't.
kind of waiting for somebody to go up and say, you are so cool, can I like sponsor you? Actually, I went through life a lot like, is this self-centeredness or something? And there was only one guy that he sounded like he had something that I wanted. And the best I could muster, because I'm not real good at reaching out for things and for people. I'm a lot better at reaching out to. And so I asked this guy, I said, you know, I'll have a year clean in about 3 months, and I need somebody to give me my token. So would you be my sponsor? And he said, yeah. He was surprised that I asked him. And after about the third time we got together, and I wanted to just talk about the steps, and he asked me, did I have a problem with writing? I went, yeah, okay. So my first 4th step wound up being an entire spiral notebook. And when I got together with this guy to share it with him, happened to be, we were sitting at the kitchen, and he was, TV was on in the living room, and his mother was in there watching TV, and he was eating fried chicken, and I was telling my deepest, most intimate stuff. You know, and the phone was ringing, and he was taking phone calls. Heck, I thought that's the way all step work is done. I don't want to say too bad, because I don't think he's hearing half what I'm saying. And but just by sharing it felt good, and I wound up with a couple years clean, having some resentments against this individual and pretty much everybody in my home group. You know, everybody. And I used to take my glasses off so I couldn't see people. It really changes my outlook. Actually, I took these off so you guys wouldn't think I was trying to be cool. I just, you know. And at about 2.5 years clean, I had this list of people that I pretty much wanted to just axe murder them. just figuratively, not actually. And, people would give me a hug and they, how you doing? I went, okay. They're like, am I on the list? I went, yeah, and I don't know why, but. Because I just got home and just write names down, and then I go back through and I try to write a little something on it. I couldn't figure out why they were on there, but there must have been a reason I wouldn't have put them on there. And I got through all of that, and there's not a day that goes by, absolutely not a single day that goes by that I don't have something to be grateful for. I mean, a lot of stuff. A lot of things. And I can't put any of them on here on a table, or park them in the parking lot, or park them at the pier, or wear them on the outside of me, you know. And because I wasn't unemployed, and I wasn't physically sick, and I wasn't homeless when I got clean. That's the way I used the first 20 years, you know, in prison, out of prison, in prison, out of prison, use. Anything that I had, it's like I had this own exchange. You know, you go to Canada, you swap your money for Canadian money. You go to Mexico, you get pesos. Anything I had that had any value at all, I immediately, like, converted it to drugs. No matter what it was. And the first 20 years, that's the way I used. And if it hadn't been for being able to sleep on my mother's couch and drive her car, you know, and get $40 to make sure I was dirty to get on a methadone program or something, that's all I did. I couldn't stay out more than 6 months, sometimes 6 hours, you know. And it was just really, really, really a hopeless situation for me. And I got out of prison the last time in 1985, and I came to Elkhart. And I thought, I'm going to do it this time. I just wanted to feel different. I thought that, you know, what's wrong with your life? You know, you're 32 years old, and what do you need to do to really get straightened out? I'll get a job. So I got a job, and I came to the work release center in South Bend. I've been privileged to go back there for about 2 years. Every Sunday I went back and did a little H&I work over there. And I still got that paycheck, and I use that once in a while when I'm talking to those guys. I say, you know, I just used to be my address. I've got my same the first paycheck I ever got here. I've still got it, and I do. And I can remember coming back from Region, our region is on the second weekend of all even-numbered months. And I come back from Region just like really pumped, just spiritual. I know some people don't look at service work, especially committee stuff like that, you know. But Region for me is a little different than anything else, any other committee or area or any of that, because we drive from all over the state, and I believe that we go there. I know why I go there. I go there because I have an appreciation and a love and a passion for Narcotics Anonymous, and to be there with people that I feel have the same motivation Because I'm not going there to get literature or to meet anybody, you know. I'm there because I need to be given something back. You know. Need to try to show my appreciation. And so I come back with all this neat information about stuff I never even thought about, you know. I mean, for the first year, I thought NA was the meetings that I was going to. And some of the neatest information I get now is to write to World Service Office, or NA World Services it's called now, and have them mail me a copy of the annual report, which should be available now. They just had the conference. And it just got a lot of neat information in it, like how many one-year medallions they sold, how many basic texts they printed, what language, how many meetings there are in the world, how many areas, how many countries. You know, there's Narcotics Anonymous meetings in Iran, Bangladesh. And that's neat information, you know. And I'll take my sharing time when I get this at a few meetings to share that with everybody. Because I think it's interesting to know how many white key tags they sold, how much money they took in, and what they did with it. Money's a big issue. Money's a big issue in Narcotics Anonymous. I hear that it seems like there's never enough of it, but you know, this fellowship keeps growing and growing, and people keep getting clean. Some of us stay clean, you know. First couple of years I was clean, I went to sleep at a lot of meetings. I mean, I'd sit there, and the most important thing for me for that hour and a half was not to lean too far back in my chair, because I'd be gone. And I'm doing that again, you know. I've got a job, you know. My bills are paid. I've got sponsees that, you know, sometimes they want to do step work, but I don't get a lot of new ones anymore because I have rules. You know, three rules. Do you have a basic text? Okay, here's a basic text. You're going to read it, and if you want to go talk to the women, get another sponsor. You know, that's me. That's the way I did it. That's what I was told. That same home group meeting, about the second week there, they told me I should be the greeter. So I'm standing at the door getting everybody a hug as they come in, and there's a girl on the other side of the doorway with 5 years clean trying to talk to me. I went, hey, I'm a newcomer. Beat it. I didn't know. You all told me to do that. I didn't quite say it like that. I went, I'm a newcomer. You know that. That was real easy for me to follow because, hey, I don't know nothing about you women. You know, I don't know nothing except that I don't know anything. And I'll see, you know, I'll see guys, you know, sitting around with your arm around your wives and stuff, and I'm going, damn, sure would like to do that. Sure would like to have something like that going on in my life. And then I think, yeah, but I want to go do this, and I don't want to check with anybody before I do it. So I like my freedom, and sixth step, that's where I'm living at right now, you know. Regardless of what I want to be writing on or anything, I am just so aware of these character defects. You know, I am so aware of them, and I'm so tired. Because nothing's going wrong, you know. Everything's going good, but I'll just like find some reason to be good. And that's when, the first, if I've been clean 1,000 days, I'll say the first 999 days, I was always looking for something else. This bottom line is just gotta, staying clean has got to be the most important thing. Bottom line. And I'm thinking bottom line, that crap's for bean counters, you know, corporate money watchers or something. I want to have fun, right? I got clean to have fun and learn how to live. And nothing's going wrong, but still I'm just like, But the bottom line is, man, if nothing else, I've got my abstinence, I've got my clean time. I've been empowered by that. You know, I don't have to settle for anything I don't want to. I can pretty much do what I want and go what I want. turned 46 last week, and finally, bought a house in recovery, and got a good job. You're not going to believe this, but about 3 months ago, they offered me the plant manager's position because they think I have people skills. And you know what?
Oh, man.
I do. I've always had some personality, but it was just kind of mutated and just, because I could get people's attention one way or the other, but I never did nothing with it, And everybody that knows me, whether they're in these rooms or not, knows that I'm an addict in recovery. Absolutely nobody is unaware of that. People that sign my checks, people I talk to, everybody knows it because I talk this to them. The same stuff that I'll talk to a sponsor or in a meeting, I talk it to them. All of them, And I'll get somebody in the office, tell them I got to let them go, and the next thing I'll ask them is, hey, I'll give them a meeting schedule, talk to them about what's going on in their life, One of the things that I've learned to do, which probably makes me have some value as a manager of people in a business, is that something that I heard heard Jimmy Kay speak on a tape when I first got clean. I'm thinking like, Jimmy Kay, that's a guy that, yeah, okay. And he wasn't really a flamboyant, fiery speaker. He just kind of talked, man. And as far as spirituality goes, I think he was a bit of an eclectic. I never had the privilege of knowing him, but I have the privilege of living what he gave us, And he didn't care about your higher power. And he wasn't real big on language. In fact, I appreciated him so much, I managed to get a photograph of him. I had it put on a sweatshirt, which if it gets chilly, I may wear it today. Sometimes people look at that and go, especially out in public, I'll be in a 7-Eleven or something, and go, okay, I don't know who. Because it says, do you know me, Jimmy Kay? He's got his picture on it. And somebody told his wife about this sweatshirt, so she sends me this medallion. It's one of the first NA medallions that was ever minted, and they're square. And on the front, it says clean and sober. And on the back, it's got the I version of the Serenity Prayer. Because I used to be one of these guys in a meeting when somebody would use some language that they got somewhere else besides the basic text, and it was just like, people used to tell me, it looked like a sign going across your forehead, because I'd be like, not hearing that in my meeting. I know that's not what's important today. I believe in the language. I believe in the basic text. I believe in the language of the basic text. I don't believe that anybody's going to go out and use, if somebody identifies themselves as something other than just an addict, in a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous. I believe it's a program of identification. And if somebody comes to our meetings for months or years or something and still doesn't realize that just being an addict is enough, okay. I'm okay with that. So I'm afraid to be complacent. I've listened to a lot of tapes when I first got clean. I don't listen to them so much anymore, working 65, 70 hours a week, and I'll still go to a meeting and go sleep at the table. I'll still pick somebody up if they call me for a ride. I don't have a lot of gray areas in my recovery, and I don't encourage other people to have them in theirs. Complacency. See, I don't need I have the basic text. I don't need to think a lot. Another thing that I tell newcomers when they're wanting to talk about recovery or about this or about that, because invariably they'll say, I was thinking. I go, hold it. Right there. Hold it. What are you doing? It says in the basic text that my best thinking got me here. So I tell them, hey, hold it. I'll give you a ride to a meeting every night this week. You know, I'll do your thinking for you. You know, until you're well enough or brave enough or comfortable enough or find somebody else that you feel like treats you with a little more respect or whatever, so you think for yourself. I mean, that's what was done for me. Here, open this meeting, make this coffee. Here, hug everybody that comes in. Pass these out, pick these up. Read this book. Do some step work. Gary, you going to the restaurant? Yeah, give so and so a ride. You know. All I had was willingness. I needed to be told what to do. See, because even though I was sick, I knew that where did I do best at? Where did I always do best at? In prison. I did. You know, I was messed up. Immediately I hit the street, I'd be messing up. But as soon as they locked me up, they'd say, go and sit down. You know? I just needed somebody to tell me what to do. Take a shower, eat.
Yeah.
Turn the TV off, turn it on, mop that floor. Whatever it was, you know. Because on my own, of my own will, I'm going to make a mess of it. So I was thinking of a tape I heard by Mr. Bill, which I thought was a pretty neat guy. He didn't talk a lot about using, you know, he talked about what was going on in recovery. And a friend of mine here at the convention, he's gone back to home now, but he was probably the top person on that list I was talking about I made. You know, and he when he had like a year clean or so, he was at a convention Mr. Bill spoke at, so Mr. Bill's upstairs trying to watch a ball game in between speaking, and he was talking to him. He was talking about where he was at and all this trouble he was having and all these feelings and stuff, and Mr. Bill asked him, so how long you been clean? He said, like 2 years or something. He said, well, when you clean 5 years, then your head will pop completely out of your ass. And you'll start to, you'll not understand, but you will start to accept and be able to live some of this life that's available to us. So I'm looking at June 26, 2001, man, the head's going to pop free. And I'm like, because it's kind of, I don't know, it's not fear of like getting in a high place and being afraid of falling, and it's not like a fear of facing people, you know, or walking into a crowded room, or you know, telling some guy that's a lot bigger and uglier and angrier looking than I am to move his car. You know, it's not that kind of fear. It's kind of a, I don't know. But I have a fair command of the English language, and sometimes, and this is where I'm at right now with my recovery. I don't know what's not quite right with me, you know, and I can't. Something's just not quite right. I don't know if it's that hole that you were talking about, and I'm not trying to fill it with outside things, because I have that in perspective. That stuff it's just not that important, you know. And in spite of myself, I managed to accumulate some of this stuff, you know. But if I can't use it some way to further my recovery, and I'm talking about the spiritual part of it, you know, because I'm not physically unhealthy, and I'm not morally unhealthy. Not too bad. And spiritually, it's the whole thing to me is spiritual. You know, there was a guy that when I was in treatment, they had this the head of chaplaincy services came and spoke to us, and he had this collar and he had his spirituality. He also had about 25 years clean and sober, which was fine with me. You know, he was when they were workshopping the basic text, he was involved in that. So right away, I'm thinking, man, this got to be my sponsor. He's got the spirituality, and he's got something I can identify with. And I did ask him to be my sponsor. And on my way out, as I was getting my little medallion and heading out for to that time I'm going to have to arrive at, where I either have to take a left and go to a meeting, or take a right and go do it my way. I knew sooner or later I'd get there, see? That's why I never wanted to leave treatment. I figured I'd just make them my home group. Cost too much. Boy, you talk about putting a couple bucks in the basket. I mean, it's, what do they charge, you know? But right away, he shared this thing with me about it was something less than a heterosexual experience that he had, you know. And then right away, he tells me, like, I've shared this, Gary, with 250 people before, so nobody can blackmail me with it, you know. And I'm sitting there with whatever it was, 6 weeks clean, however long I let you stand there, and I'm thinking 3 or 4 different things. I'm thinking, like, either he's trying to show me what kind of level of honesty I'm going to have to strive for in order to make these steps effective. Either that, or he's interested in me like that, or he knows. So I didn't ask him to be my sponsor. But there was one other thing that he said. He said I should try to, when I was talking about these guys, I mean, they're like telling me, like, these hugs are all right, you know, but I kind of like, he went, a hug with a little lust in it. And I said, yeah. Because I wasn't quite sure that I liked that idea either, you know what I mean? I'll go to your meetings and stuff, but I don't know about all this other things. And he said, well, you need to work the steps, Gary, because if you want to have any quality in your life, you got to do something besides just not get high. And then as I was leaving, he said, try to answer a question. He said, just imagine yourself naked, not necessarily just without clothes, but I mean naked. You know, in a desert somewhere, and there's nothing around. What's good about Gary? What is there that is of value? And I know I have a generous heart almost to a fault, but then I got a little character defect there too. It's a low self-esteem that kind of interferes with that, you know, because I'll do too much, I'll feel like a jerk. I feel like a sucker. Yeah. But I'm generous, and I'm sensitive. I have a love for Narcotics Anonymous. I don't think I'm a very good sponsor because I got so much stuff going on with myself right now. I just, you know, it's like, this is what the basic text says. Do it. Why you gotta be so analytical? Read a couple of the personal stories. Identify and go back to the front and see what you're supposed to do. You know, I'll help you find it. Yeah. It's an awesome program. It's an awesome book. I don't know what I've said about complacency. That, you know, I haven't been yet. I don't know if that says anything. You know, I'm kind of happy. I'm pretty happy right now. The only time I'm comfortable, happy, fulfilled, and just pretty much at peace with myself is when I'm at a meeting and I'm listening to somebody and I'm identifying, or I'm sharing and somebody else hopefully is identifying. And that's a thing called empathy, man. If I could live connected like that all the time, that'd be it for me. But I lose that when I got to go out here. Out here, and man, I mean, you know, you hold a door for somebody, you know, and they're like, and I'll do that. I try to be up. I run it's a 90,000 square foot plant. I jog everywhere I'm going. I jump up in the air and click my heels. I find the biggest sourpuss that wants to, like, axe murder everybody, you know, and I'll try to talk to him and encourage him and tell him how unimportant it is whether or not he dinged that pontoon or not. So what? We'll put another one on it. Come on. Yeah. You know. Right. And it's just, and I get down doing that. See, I need to come and get pumped up too. You know, I punched a lot of holes in walls clean. You know, I spent a lot of time, don't take this wrong, but I spent a lot of time on my knees in the men's room. Okay? Because that's, if I want, I gotta get somewhere quick and say a prayer because I'm getting ready to, like, punch a hole in something. It's not going to be a wall. So I head for the bathroom, shut the door in the dark, and just drop down and pray, man. You know, because without the connection, the higher power, man, I'm helpless. You know, I use doorknobs and whatever, the meetings, you know, just whatever I could get the first 2.5 years or so. And then I got to a spot, man, to where I had some stuff I needed to let go of. And the doorknob wasn't going to do it. So I went out searching. I don't get all of my spirituality here, although I feel a lot of it in the room right now. But I go other places for other things I need from recovery. For the physical part of it, I stay clean. I get physicals. I try to eat right. I go to the gym 3-4 times a week, 2-3 times a week. Once, sometimes I go 2 weeks without going because jobs, responsibility is part of being clean. And I attend meetings as regularly as possible. And I stay involved in the service loop. Not so much because I feel like I've got that much to offer to the fellowship as a whole, because I'm much more comfortable with a newcomer in a car taking them to a meeting, or buying them a meal, or giving them a basic text, but because I need to stay connected. And the spiritual part, I have a particular place that I go on a regular basis, and this particular place I go to, it's like, when I decided I needed to find something more substantial for my spiritual well-being, it was like, and I just started going, and I didn't find anybody to go with or anything. I just got up and went and looked, because same way I got to do the recovery thing. And I found a place, and they said, all right, keep it simple, keep coming back, just for today. I went, oh, and I find that no matter where I go for spirituality, if it really is spiritual, there's no conflict.
That's right.
There is absolutely no conflict, because it's like he said, it's all God, whatever you want to call it. And that's encouraging. So, complacency, I haven't done it. Don't think I'm going to do it. Don't want to do it. I'm scared. The last thing I want to ever do is use again. And I know that if I keep coming to meetings, regardless of how I feel, if I stay connected to the fellowship, and if I see and touch and talk to addicts on a daily basis, I'm going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you will too. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Hi, I'm Carrie. I'm an addict.
Hey, Carrie.
Before we open the floor for sharing, I need to remind everyone that you are being taped. If you wish not to be taped, please let me know so that we can turn the tape machine off. So if anybody wants to share.
We don't want to be complacent.
My name's Chris and I'm an addict. And I was standing right out the door, and before I went out, Carrie said, she pointed to the chair, and that stopped me. And then I look over and I see my sponsor brother, and he's like, you share first and I'll share second, or something like that. Oh, okay, I was mistaken. So something told me to come up here and sit in this chair. Talking about complacency and recovery. It's a sick place for me to be. The first time I found myself with a lot of complacency was when I decided, and my sponsor decided, that it was time for us to do my 4-step. It took me 9 months to do my 4-step. A lot of that was complacency, because once I got on it, I was doing it. I would type for 12 to 13 hours at a time, and I would pump out my 12-step once I got motivated to do it. And I was the most miserable fuck in the rooms. Excuse my language, I'm saying little kids, but I was miserable. During that time, I'd contemplated suicide again. Decided about or I thought about going back out and using. They told me if I put my 4-step in a drawer, I won't get it back out. I didn't believe them. I had to do it for myself. And my biggest reasoning for that was because I didn't know what to do. They said, just start writing. Write what? I had a question for every answer you had. And my sponsor suggested that I use the new 4-step guide before it was in the book that's now available, the workbook. We used them unapproved, and he says, just use this format and start answering these questions. I was like, damn, these questions are hard, because I didn't want to sit down and take the time to look at me. I was scared of what I might find, because I'm a chameleon. I learned that I imitate people very well. If you sit, I can sit. If you stand, I can stand. If you talk one way, I can talk one way. If you dress one way, I'll dress that way too. So it was easy for me to fit in no matter where I went to. But when it took time for me to realize that I was going to have to find my own personality, I was going to have to become a me, a Chris. Then I got scared, and I didn't know what the hell to do. So like I said, I came up with every reason, every excuse in the book not to do my 4-step. But when I finally did it, the process was over. It was one of the most spiritual and most beautiful things that I had ever been through, because I had learned so many different things about myself that I had never seen before. And then it was time to share it with my sponsor and doing the 5th step, and I thought, wow, okay, this is going to be a big step, because now he's going to hear stuff that he's never heard about me before. But yet, I thought I almost told him everything until I started writing out my 4-step, and there was stuff that just kept popping in my head, and I'd keep writing it. I would keep writing it. And when we went and did my 5th step, I thought we were just going to go somewhere, sit down, read 5th step. It didn't happen that way. It became a spiritual 5th step. We got out candles. We got out things that reminded me of my higher power, so that I knew that he was there. We brought out old pictures. We did a number of different things when we did my 5th step. When they say, admit to God, to yourself, and to another human being the exact nature of your wrong, or I'm forgetting the 5th step. I think it is it, the exact nature of your wrongs. Okay. I thought I was mixing two of them together. Like 5 and 9 or something. But anyways, I didn't realize that, it was going to be a process once again. And I tried to stall, hey, let's go get something to eat, And he said, we will. We need to do this. And I became ready for that at that point. I heard coming into these rooms that people who keep coming to meetings regularly stay clean. If you don't come back, you won't stay clean. And if you don't stay clean, you won't live. I was fighting depression, suicide, and I was fighting my addiction all in one. And I wanted to live. That much I knew. So I did the suggested steps that my sponsor said do. I did the things that I was supposed to do. And I'm currently on my 6th step. And I went to a convention last week, or not convention, but a camp out last weekend. And somebody there said, I think you're really growing. I've watched you grow up in this fellowship, and I feel like I've grown up in this fellowship. But when I'm stuck and I'm not doing my step work, I'm complacent, Nobody wants to be around me. Because I get sick. I get real sick. Like most addicts. But one of the things that also helped me do my 4-step was that I really got active during my 4-step in H&I, hospitals and institutions. And as I went into different facilities, I got to see these people coming in, these newcomers coming in for the first time, who had never been to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, had no idea what Narcotics Anonymous meant, just like me, and had an opportunity to share with them what these rooms are about and what they're for. And I came out of that, and that's, I think, really when I got my head out of my ass, because I started to see how sick I used to be and how sick I can be if I don't motivate myself to move on. So, I don't know. That's all I got. I just wanted to share a little bit.
I'm an addict called AJ. And I just want to say a few things. My sponsor looked at me like and pointed up here, and then nobody came up, and then all of a sudden my sponsor and I both walked up at the same time. But the things I heard today, I think the best thing for me to do when I hear about the topic of complacency would be, and since I've come to Narcotics Anonymous, not as bragging, but I haven't relapsed. You know, I've been here about 2 years, 5 months, and I know that one of the best things I can read in our basic text is recovery and relapse. That's where all these red flag things we talk about are at. It keeps reminding me, you know, and then that old cliche about people that don't go to meetings get to find out what happens to people that don't go to meetings. And then when they finally, if they do make it back, I get to hear the story, the research they did, you know, and that, you know, is that enough to motivate me, or am I going to become complacent? Because that'll never happen to me, you know. A few things, Phil, you know, I thought about as you were speaking too, and you said some things, especially with your honesty about the relationship issues and things that I said at one time, I told you, you speak for all of us that have had any kind of problems, you know, at times. You know, it helps lessen the load for other people, is what I think I remember telling you. And due to complacency, because Phil and I go to some of the same meetings, you know, my home group, Phil's there. And, you know, I can become complacent. I, you know, say, and we all do it, you know. We talk about it a lot, you know, oh, not him again, you know. And I don't mean you, I mean any of us, you know. And then people say it about me too. Oh, no, he's compelled to share again. You know, I know it happens. And that's complacency too at times. But I think that I heard some good things Gary said too, you know, especially if I want to become a better sponsor with the little bit of sponsoring that I do. What he said, he didn't say it that way, but what it spoke to my heart was, my spirit, I've got to become a better sponsee to be a better sponsor. You know, get in there and act and play my role in that relationship, so I have the other, know how to feed the other relationship. And that's what it spoke to me about today. And somebody said to me, or I heard it on a speaker tape, and so a speaker that I really like, and he says, if you think you're complacent, then come place your ass in a meeting. And, you know, and that spoke volumes, you know, simple. But that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, AJ.
I'm a grateful recovering addict called Derek.
Derek.
Nobody was coming up to the microphone, so I thought I'd come up and share a couple of things. But thanks, AJ. If you want to be a better sponsee, have we got a regional position for you? I was really moved by what Gary and Phil both had to say. They covered both ends of the spectrum, what happens when you are complacent and what happens when you're not, and I think that if any of us could stay anywhere in the middle, we're going to be all right. And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Derek.
Okay. You want to help me close this meeting, please, with a group hug?
Sure.